Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you are new to me, it's the first time you're seeing my face. Hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So I hope that's why you're here, because that's what's gonna be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in. The continued support, I really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have a special video. I have been working on this video since October of last year when I did my Books That Haunt Me video. When I originally did that video, I had a list of books that from my past that I clearly could remember, but not all the books haunted me. Some of them built me, and that's what this is. These are the books that built me. These are all the books that had major impacts in my life from the early years all the way up till now to define what kind of person I am, kind of my personality traits, emphasize traits that I didn't realize I had but brought forth in me because I read it in a book and I wanted to try it and it worked for me. My interest in reading, my interest in people and things of that nature. So all of these books I'm about to talk about had significant impacts on my character. And if this sounds interesting to you and you'd like to find out what books built this fucking crazy ass bitch, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's find the fuck out. Okay, so to do this, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go way back to when I first started to learn to read, which was in the kindergarten, first grade. I was always an advanced reader. As soon as I started learning to read and how to put words together in sentences and started to figure out that these actually mean things, I took to it like a fish out of water, or a fish in water, fish to water. I still can't do expressions. But part of growing up when I was little, my mom made it mandatory that I read at least 30 minutes to an hour every single night, even in the summer. So yes, I was forced to read as a child, but it ended up fostering this extreme love and passion for reading, and it was something that I was good at. So it made me feel even better about it. And in my early years, which is where we're going to start, there were 3 series that pretty much dominated my world. If you gave me a book in this series, I was guaranteed to power through it and finish it and just beg for more later. And the first series is, of course, R.L. Stine's Goosebumps. This was a staple for 90s kids. Absolute hardcore staple. This series spoke to the creepy, macabre side that I possessed even as a very young child. I have never really been scared of a lot of things. A lot of normally typical like haunted houses, zombies, mummies, vampires, whatever. None of that stuff ever fucking scared me as a kid. I thought it was cool as shit. And these books just gave me it in a way that I could process it as a child and still really enjoy it, but still kind of give me the heebie-jeebies, but know that it was completely fake and I was 100% safe. So I just ate these things up like they were fucking candy. I would wake up in the middle of the night after my parents put me to bed and turn my light on and continue reading these books, and I could not get enough of these. I loved the straight books, and I loved the series when he started taking it and you would read a page and there'd be this little footnote saying, if you want to go through the door, turn to page 13. If you want to turn around, go back to page 2 and start again. I fucking ate all of his types of genres and series up. I just had a great time with the Goosebumps series, and it definitely solidified the creepy macabre that is still me today. I blame it. I fully aware that that is where that is rooted, right there in Goosebumps. And some of my favorites were The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, Night of the Living Dummy, because who doesn't think ventriloquist dummies are fucking creepy as shit, all right? I'm not scared of them, but they are fucking creepy. Welcome to Camp Nightmare, The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, which really, once I moved to Illinois, I remember thinking, oh God, I remember loving this one and now hating my life because there was cornfields fucking everywhere. And then Return of the Mummy. Those were some of my absolute favorites from R.L. Stine, but these books just solidified me as a child. I was not a Wednesday Addams, but I was damn fucking close. I was a very Irish Wednesday Addams, if that makes any fucking sense. I had a little bit of a tan because I was in California, but yeah, I love the creepy, I love the macabre. My sister used to read Anne Rice, and so this was my kind of way of emulating her with the dark and creepy books. I loved ghost stories. I loved sitting around campfires and telling them. I was obsessed with the show Are You Afraid of the Dark because of the mystery elements and the spooky elements. So these books just fed my soul in a way that no other book has ever touched. up until I became an adult and started reading horror genre. So yeah, definitely a staple, definitely huge fucking impact in Jackie. I mean, I got married on October 31st on fucking purpose, okay? I did. I had a gothic Victorian wedding on fucking purpose. So the creepy macabre never left me. It never did. The next series that pretty much dominated my early years was Nancy Drew by Caroline Keene. And here's some of them. This series, this spoke to my inquisitive nature. I had the nickname Jackie Jabberjaws when I was a kid because I loved to talk. But what I also loved to do was ask questions. What, where, who, when, why. I love these, and I would abuse the fuck out of these questions. Everything was a mystery to me. I love learning new things. I love experiencing new things. And these books just fed this inquisitive and thought-provoking and curious nature that I already possessed, and it just fed it even more. I also really enjoyed Nancy Drew as a heroine. She was the first character that I really 100% remember thinking, this girl's kind of me. This is insane. Like, she's me, just a little bit older. And I just ate her up. I just loved her. I love that she was fearless. I love that she took no crap, that no was never an answer she was going to take, and she was going to get to the bottom of the fucking mystery. She was going to figure the fucking shit out. I've always been a big puzzle girl, jigsaw puzzles, and so these mystery books from Nancy Drew I tried so hard to figure out the mystery before the end of the book, and sometimes I got it, and when I did, I was like, fuck yes, that's me. I got that shit. Kiss my ass. Have a nice fucking day. Thank you. Thank you very fucking much. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And the other thing I really enjoyed about Nancy Drew is that she helped develop my moral fiber. To this day, when I see something wrong or not right, I tend to say something. If I'm in a position to, and I can, I will. And it all stemmed from Nancy Drew because she did not let bad things happen. If she saw something bad happening, she went and tried to fix it. Or she found the proper authorities to try to fix it. And I got that from her. And it just kept fostering and fostering. So she was really the very first heroine I ever really 100% related to because she was me just a few years older and I wanted to be her. I wanted her life. Oh my God, I wanted it so bad. She had so many adventures, so many thrill-seeking chases, and I fucking ate that shit up and I wanted to be her. And I developed and I built my life kind of around her. This fearless, not scared of anything, trying anything for the first time, trying to get to the bottom of things, wanting to see all the sides of the story, because that was another thing that Nancy Drew did, is even though she found out who the bad guy was or the bad girl, she found out why they were the way they were. So she had the full 100% story, the full 360 version. And I just loved it. She's me. She's my heart, and I love her. And some of my favorites were The Hidden Staircase, The Secret of Shadow Ranch, Password of Larkspur Lane, The Clue and the Broken Lock, which was by far, hands down, my fucking favorite, and then The Secret of the Old Attic, because I always wanted an attic and I never had a house that had one. The next series that really dominated my life was The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. I read this for the first time when I was in the 4th grade. Now, when I was in the 4th grade, I was going to my very first Catholic school. I was going to OLG, Our Lady of Grace. And this is where I learned that there can be stories within stories. If you have read The Chronicles of Narnia, The Magician's Nephew, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Horse and His Boy, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, The Last Battle, all of these books that are included in this series, it's a 7-book series. If you have read these, you understand there's a lot of Christian lore, Christian myth, a lot of Christianity threaded within these books. And being in a Catholic school and reading these, being surrounded by religion at all times, because I was going to mass every day, I was taking religion class, I was taking catechism, and all these things for my sacraments, all this stuff was very prevalent in my mind. So I was seeing it in this book. But at the same time, I was learning that there were 2 stories. And this was the first time I really experienced a story within a story. And now to this day, I read books looking for the story within the story. If you watch any of my book reviews, if I find any type of symbolism, I am on that shit like flies on dung, okay? I am there. I'm like, give it to me. I want to know I want to know the nuggets, the little hidden gems. I want to see the Easter eggs. And it's all because of this fucking series right here. Now, there's another thing about this series that I really, really enjoyed is because this was my first real hardcore fantasy series. This series allowed me to really believe that if something I couldn't touch, I couldn't actually see, but believe that it was real. Satyrs, witches, magic. This series brought magic and made it real for me. This is one of the first times I ever really got lost in a completely made up world. Goosebumps, set in modern day times, just with really fucking weird, creepy shit. Nancy Drew, set in modern day times with really weird, creepy mystery thrillers that were all kind of easily explained. This was fantastical. This was magic. There was unknown elements. There were completely made up elements. There's made up creatures. There was mythological creatures. There was, are they real? Are they not? There was all of these elements thrown in here. And so this was my first real exposure to fantasy. And it being okay to imagine and to just get lost in a world that I really wish existed but didn't. Now, some of my favorites are The Magician's Nephew and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which are actually the very first two. The Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe is actually, most of the time, commonly believed the first book in the series. The Magician's Nephew is pretty much known as a prequel to the series because The Magician's Nephew explains how the wardrobe gets to be where it is. But by far, The Magician's Nephew is my favorite. And the reason it is my favorite is because it gives me that origin story. This is the first series that I wanted an origin story, and I wanted to know why things were the way that they fucking were. And I just loved it. This sparked my love of going backwards, my love of finding out the why to this fantastical element. So now when I read fantasy books, I love a good prequel. Do I always read that first and then read the rest of the series? No, because that's usually not how they come out. But I do genuinely love a good prequel that answers all the how things came about. A lot of people don't really care about them. I really enjoy them because of that reason, because I want to know the history of this world and the story that I fell in love with. And it's all because of this series. There is one last book. This is an individual book. This is not a series, but this is a book that definitely fostered this courageous, daredevil kind of mentality that I had as a very young child and early on in my teenage years. And that is How to Eat Fried Worms by Thomas Rockwell. So when I was in the second grade, my teacher read this book. I believe there's 13 or 14 chapters in this book, and each chapter is based off of a specific point. In the opening of the book, a boy is dared to eat worms. I don't remember if it's for money or for something else, but basically, if he doesn't do it, he's a chicken. So every week on a Thursday, we would read a chapter of this book. And then that Friday, because it was back in the 90s and you could fucking do this, you can't do this shit anymore, but back in the 90s, when you could do this, my teacher would bring in worms and we would eat as a class the worm prepared the way they did in the previous chapter that we just read. Because every chapter is a different preparation of a worm and how to go about eating it. Out of the entire class, by the end of the book, there were 4 boys and me that completed it. So this was my first real foray into like women's fuck you moments. Like I can do it just like you and it doesn't matter what parts I have. So this was definitely a very momentous occasion for me in second grade because I was the only girl left. And this book has always stuck with me because of it, because it's such a cool ass memory. But it definitely built and fostered this daredevil kind of mentality that I ended up further developing as I got older. And also I think it helped contribute to the fact that I can damn near eat anything. I've eaten some really fucking weird things in my life, some really disgusting things, some really fucking good things, and some really weird things that it wasn't bad, it wasn't good, but I never want to fucking eat it again, all right? No, and it's all because of this fucking book, because I made it through, and I was the only girl to fucking do it. So I was very, very proud of myself at that time. That was a big accomplishment in second grade for me. It was a very big accomplishment. Now, After the early years, when I got into actual grade school, we're talking like 5th, 6th grade and junior high, 7th and 8th grade, my styles and tastes changed. I still like the creepy, I still like the macabre, I still like the fantastical, and I still like the mystery. But I started to want to branch out and read a little bit more difficult things. And my mom brought home this one book, and it was a part of the Dear America series, which is a series of books written by different authors. And each book is the diary of a young girl going through a specific time period in history. It's written in a diary format, and these girls were my age. Now, there's also a male series, but I did not read the male series. I'm just be perfectly honest, I didn't give a fuck, okay? I was reading the girls' one. And there's also a royalty series, which I read 2 of those, but I was more about what those books looked like because they had the gold leaf pages, so I felt really fucking cool having those. But it's the original series that I just absolutely adored. I loved the covers, the beveled edges. They had the cloth bookmark attached. So I felt very like, ooh, look at me. So this is the first series I really started to care about what the books looked like and felt like, and started getting more of a tangible love for books. But it's what these books were about that really forged who I am today. Out of all the series of the books I'm going to talk about, this one probably has one of the most poignant pieces of me in it, is because of what they were about. Every girl was from a different time period, and she was writing a diary while going through a specific time period in history. We had a Mayflower one. We have a Revolutionary War. We have a Civil War. We had one on the Titanic. There was an Irish immigrant. There was a Dutch slave. There was an African slave. There was an Oregon Trail. There was a gold miner's daughter. There was World War II, World War I, all of these different major historical periods that I knew about. And at the time thought was incredibly fucking boring because I couldn't fucking relate to it. I would sit there in class and be like, this is so fucking boring. God, can we make this interesting? My mom found these books, and this is how history was made interesting for me. Is because now I was seeing, now they were not real girls, they were fiction, but I was seeing history lived through the eyes of someone my age, and how they would have experienced it and how they would have dealt with it and dealt with things. Some of my favorites were The Journey into the New World, Diary of Remember Patience Whipple from the Mayflower in 1620. The Winter of the Red Snow, The Revolutionary War Diary of Abigail Jane Stewart, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, 1776. I loved The Voyage of the Great Titanic, The Diary of Margaret Ann Brady, RMS Titanic, 1912. And another one, A Time of Courage, A Suffragette Diary of Kathleen Bowen. Those were some of my favorites, because these were moments in history that I really knew and I could understand, but I saw it through the eyes of someone my own age. These were very similar to the American Girl books, but as the American Girl books are told in third-person omniscient, this was a first-hand account, fictional first-hand account of this time period, and it was just fucking ecstatic, and it made me fall in love with history. I ended up majoring in history, and part of the reason is because of these fucking books. After I read all of these books, and I read every single book in the female series, every fucking one of them, I could not let them go. I reread them over and over and over again. The diary entries, the pain, the sorrow, the happiness, the unknown, the uncertainties. I just could not get enough of these stories. And because of these stories, when I got older and started getting to history, this is the kind of shit that I looked for in the textbooks. When I did my research papers, this was the shit that I looked for, because this is how I could connect to my past experiences, my genealogy, my United States history. This is how I could connect, by finding these real tangible moments of possible actual happenings. And I just fucking devoured it. This series held so much power for me as a child. I, to this day, regret getting rid of these. I sold them in a yard sale, and I wish I hadn't, because, man, these were fucking great. I would reread these things on heartbeat. I loved them. I loved these things. And then also, they were the first books I actually gave a shit about what they looked like. Now, in junior high, where I went to school, there was a program that got developed called Accelerated Reader. What it was a program to help, obviously, accelerate reading, making it more fun, more of getting something for doing it. It wasn't just you sitting there reading a book. You were getting something because of it. And what happened at my school was all the books in the library that were part of the accelerated reader program, they were assigned a point value. And if you read the book and you took a test, you could possibly get this number of points. Those number of points equal out to points and credits that you could use in the school store. So little pencils, little pencil cases, erasers, sharpeners, all that little like fucking shit that you get at schools, okay? But as a 6th and 7th and 8th grader, I was all excited about it. And sometimes there was some really cool shit like a water bottle, or there was some school swag, sometimes shirts, gym shorts, hoodies, things of that nature. You know, some really cool stuff that you could save your points to spend later on. And this really created the academic reading for me, because I got really fucking competitive. I wanted the books with the most points. In my mind, if I read the books with the most points and aced the test, then I got 50 points while somebody else had to read 3 books just to get 20. Yeah, those 3 books were a hell of a lot easier. But I only had to read 1 to get 50 points. And all I had to do was really pay attention to it. So this really brought out the competitiveness in me in academics. It brought out the kind of manipulation of systems in me, trying to not so much find an easy way out, but find a way that I could benefit easier. And also, it opened up books to me that I would never have picked up. And those are the classics. All the classics were the high point value books. So in 7th and 8th grade, I was reading books like Anna Karenina, Dracula, War and Peace, Hunchback of Notre Dame. I tried Les Mis a couple times. I tried Gone with the Wind a few times. Did I make it through any of those? Yeah, I did. Did I take the test? Yeah, I did. Did I get the point values? Fuck yes, I did. Yes, I fucking did. Could I tell you what any of those books are about now? Not some of them, because I haven't reread them since. So, yep. And some of them I just never got through. I'm still trying to work my way through them. So it did work out to my advantage, but it also didn't. But there was one book during the Accelerated Reader Program that I picked up that wasn't a classic, but it was a high point value book, and it became a book that taught me so much about myself as a reader, and that was Colin McCullough's The Thornbirds. I've already talked about this book. This is one of the books that haunts me, but it's also one of my favorite books, because this book was the first book that I got attached to characters, that I started giving a shit about their lives and their relationships and their attachments. This was the first time I cried in public reading a book. I had cried before in private. This is the first time that I couldn't hold it back. This book took me on a whirlwind, and it definitely did change me. After reading this book, I started realizing that I liked multiple POVs. I liked having my heart ripped out and stomped on and then handed back to me. I thoroughly enjoyed this feeling, this realization that I can feel all of these things and never actually have experienced any of it, because I'm experiencing it through these characters. This really propelled me into my adult reading. This book, for sure. Definitely pushed me forward into my adult reading and wanting to read books that had substance, that had meaning, that had another message to them. And to this day, I have yet to reread this book because of the memory it holds. I don't want to let that memory go. I've never watched the miniseries because I don't want to ruin that memory of this book, of that experience of knowing that I can get attached to characters and care about them just as much as if they were real people. And know that their stories matter to me enough to physically affect me. So, yeah, and it's all because of Accelerated Reader. And I think I only got like 35 points for this book. But I'm pretty sure I aced that test. The next book that really kind of built me as a person during my grade school, junior high era was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I read this. I loved this book. I loved this. I was in it to win it. there was only one copy of the second book, so I got put on a waiting list. And while I was waiting on the waiting list, the first movie came out. I took my friends and we went and saw the first movie. And they cut out my favorite fucking scene. They cut it out. It's not even there. And it pissed me off. And because of that, I never read the rest of the books. I also didn't watch the rest of the series until I was much older. Because it pissed me off so much. This book taught me that if I love the book and the movie doesn't match up, don't fuck with the movies. Just don't fuck with them. Watch them later when you don't give a shit. But when you care and you're in it, you're not going to enjoy yourself. Watching the movie and having my favorite scene taken out ruined the rest of the books for me. So I told myself then that I would wait for the series to be done and then I would just marathon it. Because then my heart wouldn't get broken. And I watched all the movies and my heart would not get broken. Well after the hype. This was the first hype book that I was privy to as a child. My first whirlwind book that swept the world. And I walked away from it. And since then, I have never really jumped on bandwagons when it comes to books. Have I missed out on things? Yes. This is a part of my childhood and a part of building in me that almost regressed. Because had I kept going through it, I can only imagine what kind of reader I would have been. Because I know this book really got a lot of kids back into reading, along with another series that was very popular when I was younger. A lot of people came back to reading because of these books. A lot of kids started reading because of this book and carried on. So I can only imagine what kind of reader I'd be if I had actually stuck through with this series. So this is a series that taught me about myself that you are going to have regrets when you're older. But you know what? Reading these as an adult for the first time, the magic was still there. And I still like the books better than the fucking movies. And I love the movies now. Except the first one. They still cut out my favorite fucking scene. Just saying. Once I got out of junior high, I went to a brand new high school. So I was a new kid. I didn't know anybody. And my freshman year, we had to do a book report on something. And the book I chose was Lori Hall's Henderson Speak. This is the next book that severely helped build me. I mean, this thing built me up in levels. There was significant growth from junior high to after this book for Jackie. This book taught me about the power of speaking up. I was a new kid in the school, didn't know anybody, was scared shitless of not fitting in. And after I read this book, I said, fuck that. Fuck that, I'm gonna start fucking talking. What I also learned about this book was a lesson that my mom had been drilling into my head for years. CYA, cover your ass. Always make sure you have a way out. Whatever you do, make sure someone knows where you are, knows who you're with, and you have a way out. After reading this book, because of the subject material that happens in this book, there is a sexual assault in this book of a freshman girl, and she doesn't tell anybody about it. And you see throughout the whole point of the book how she suffers and keeps quiet until she can't handle it anymore. I knew after reading this book that if something ever like this happened to me, I would scream it at the fucking rooftops because I did not want this. I learned very early on that if there is something wrong, whether it's serious or not, if there is something bothering you internally, you need to talk about it. Because if you sweep dirt underneath the rug, yes, you can't see it anymore. When you lift that rug up, it's still fucking there. And sometimes it festers and it gets worse. And that's what this book really taught me. And so I learned at a very early age, my freshman year in high school, thank God nothing ever like this happened to me. But I knew that wherever I went, whoever I was with, my parents knew, someone I trusted knew where I was and how to get a hold of me, and I had a secondary way out. And it's been something I have followed my whole life ever since, and truthfully, anything that's ever bad happened to me, I was able to handle it because I had the right tools, because when I read this book, I made sure that if something ever like this happened to me, I had ways and I had resources and I knew where to go. So this one definitely instilled a sense of protection in me that I still hold true to this day. I would go, when I was in college, and I would go to parties and they had open cups. There's tons of pictures of me in parties with my hand over my drink like this because of this fucking book covering it. And I learned very early, if I put my drink down and I walk away, I don't fucking drink that drink again. I go get something else. And it's just little things like that that I picked up, and I picked them up because of this book, because of what happened to the character. So thank God nothing like this has ever happened to me, but it's because of the lessons that I learned watching our lead character go through what she went through and knowing I never want to experience that. So I'm going to safeguard myself and protect myself. I was always a daredevil. I would try anything once, but this book kind of made me take a step back and realize, hey, you only get this one time. This, you only get once, so you need to take fucking care of it. And that was all because of this book. So definitely a huge learning lesson for me in this one. The next book in high school that really helped build me, and this spoke to this emo, emotional side that I have, this tortured romance love, and that was Emily Bronte's Withering Heights. Now, I have recently reread this, and I have very different viewpoints. I have very different viewpoints now than when I did when I first read this book. But when I first read this book, I wanted Heathcliff so fucking bad. I was in love with him. I loved the pain on the moors. It just spoke to my emotional, teenage, mutilated heart. My Chemical Romance, loving emo fucking self, black nail polish, fucking hair over my eye, kind of, what? How's it going? Yeah, spoke to me so much. However, I feel like if I would not have read this book in high school, I would not have had the problems I had in previous relationships, because I would not have looked for a total fucking douchebag. But you know what? You live and fucking learn, guys. You live and fucking learn. And I chalk it up to this book because I had to go through all of those frogs before I found my prince. I had to go through the Heathcliffs that were so tortured and pain-ridden, and I wanted to fix and mend, and I was never a Catherine. I just wasn't. Let's just be honest, I was never a Catherine. So this book definitely taught me what I don't want in a man, because I looked for this man and found him very, very wanting and not worth my fucking time. So definitely a building block for me in relationships, for sure. The next book that in high school that really solidified my reading tastes and kind of directed me towards what I very much love now and enjoy was the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series by Laurel K. Hamilton. This is Guilty Pleasures. This is the very first book that I read in high school, and I became obsessed with this. This put vampires on the map for me in a cool, sexy, scary, and dangerous way, and I ate this shit up. Oh my God. Now, in the beginning, some of our characters are very reminiscent of Heathcliff from Withering Heights, but as the series progresses, they do tend to grow, and the morally gray characters become more palpable and enjoyable as the series goes on. And then it turns into multiple sex partners, which was always a good time because I was reading a dirty book that had dirty scenes in it, and I was like, ooh. You know, in high school, I went to a Catholic high school, so like, this was, put a book cover over so nobody knew what the fuck I was reading. But this thing definitely solidified vampires for me. Vampires are my favorite paranormal creature to read about. I fucking love them, and it's because of this series. Now, in high school, when I was in high school, Twilight was the big series. I did not read Twilight in high school. These were the vampires I read, so I still love the dark, creepy, twisted, sadistic, mean vampires that were so fucking sexy. You're just like, I'm gonna forget about all of your bullshit because I want to bone you. Because you know what? High school, I was going through fucking puberty, hormones. I want a fucking Jean-Claude. I wanted him. I did. I still like guys with long hair because of this guy. Okay? Still, to this fucking day, I like long hair. Always have. Because of Jean-Claude. Yep. Point blank. So, definitely a series that really just solidified this love of vampires for me that I've never let go. It goes all the way back to Goosebumps with the creepy and the twisted and the dark, and this just elevated it because I got everything. I got zombies, I got werewolves, I got creepy creatures, I got vampires, all the stuff that I loved in Goosebumps that was child's play, literally child's play, now got elevated into this series. And I was like, oh, this is so much better. But it's all because of those roots in Goosebumps, and now it's solidified, and I'm still to this day a huge lover of vampire and paranormal romances and things of that nature, because who doesn't love fucking vampires that are fucking gorgeous and 1,000 years old that literally live off of you? They need you so much because you sustain their entire, you sustain them entirely in their lives. Yeah, I'm totally obsessed with a guy that would need me that much. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all because of this series. Which, after I graduated in 2005, I went directly into college, where my reading tastes went all the fuck over. All the fuck over, and a lot of stuff got built up with me. I still did continue with Anita Blake series in through college, because that was the series that I chose. But I did not read as much in college because I had a lot of textbook reading, so a lot of my reading became textbook heavy. But even then, some of those books definitely did a number on me and definitely left their mark. The first one is Telling the Truth About History by Joyce Appleby, Lynn Hunt, and Margaret C. Jacob. I read this for a historiography class, which, if you are not familiar with historiography is, it's a class when you major in history you take, and essentially it teaches you how to teach history. It's essentially what the course is. And in this book really emphasized the idea of studying the overlooked person in history, which harkens back to my Dear America books, and explains that this is the type of history you need for a really good primary source. You need to find the primary sources from the people that are not always the ones you want to go to. History is oftentimes written by the winner, so you need to read from the loser's perspective sometimes. You need to read from the player's perspective, but not really the winner. You need the soldier in the trench, not the general. You need the guy on the ground floor of the clothing factory as it's going up in flames, not the owner. Okay, you need the paper boy's perspective, not Pulitzer and Hearst during the big strikes. That is what this book taught me, and I already knew this fact, and to have it solidified just made me zone in 100%, and I was able to write my senior thesis on Madame de Pompadour, which was the maîtresse en titre for Louis XV, or Louis XIV. And that is what I wrote my senior thesis on. A popular woman, but an unknown one because she was literally a mistress. The only power she had was because she was granted by the King of England, or King of France. And that was the only power she had, but she was used as a scapegoat. Everyone believed that she was the cause of all the problems, even though she wasn't. Just because who she was betting, and she was the cause of everything. But when something went well, it was never her responsibility. And so I loved this concept. It fascinated me that the unspoken people were the ones that you really learned history from. And that's also why I became a women's historian, is because women were very much overlooked. And to hear from their perspectives during all these time periods that I've grown up studying just further solidified that I knew back then that this is the history that I wanted. The unknown stuff, the little itty bitty stuff, the gritty details, which to this day, I'm still a gritty detail person. I love description. I love detail. The more you can give me, the fucking better. I love when authors walk that line of too much versus too little. I love that balance act that authors do, and some authors do it really fucking well. And it's because of my love of history and having this book just kind of ironclad solidify that I was on the right path the entire time. That all my detailed who, what, when, where, how questions that I developed in this intuitive nature that I developed at a very early age and carried through with my reading and all of these other things definitely benefited me in my area of study for sure. Once I got out of college, it went all over the place again. It went back to free reading, no more academic reading. And I started reading things such as Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. A huge milestone for me. This book started my book club. This was the very first book that me and my girlfriends read for our book club. And, well, after I had that book club, I needed to talk about more books with more people, which brought me to restarting and reviving this channel. So definitely helped build me as a person that you know now. This one right here, this is kind of a cause of it. Literally a straight fucking cause of it. Because I needed more people to talk about books with. I needed more book people in my life. My girls are fucking great, but they have their own personal lives, and at least this way, if you want to listen to me, you can. If you don't, turn it off. If you do, let's talk some books. And it's all because of this guy, because I loved it so much that I just wanted to continue to talk about it over and over and over again. So this was a spearheaded this area of my life right here. Another book that definitely helped build me was The Brotha's Bay by Jane Henry. After reading this, I discovered mafia romance and dark romance, and I have become obsessed. The darker, the twistier, the more triggers you could put, the better. I want to see authors push the envelope of comfort and make me squirm. I don't squirm that often. I grew up reading fucking Goosebumps and reading Laura K. Hamilton in high school. I read Thornbirds, which is about a priest who falls in love with a girl and watches her grow up and then has an affair with her. Huge fucking age gaps, okay? Very taboo elements throughout my life. And now I'm reading books that, yes, they are taboo, but I want envelopes pushed. I want boundaries pushed. These are the books that I'm looking for. And I thrive and I read and I like to talk about, and I want people to talk about with me because they exist. And why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? And the last book that built me, and probably besides Thornbirds, Speak, and the Dear America books, has the most powerful impact in my world, in my life. And if you've been following me at any point in time, you know exactly which book I'm about to show you. Is Diana Gabaldon's Outlander. This book, there is a definitive before Outlander Jackie and an after Outlander Jackie. Where I was before, most of my life I was okay with, but there are a lot of areas in my life that I wasn't, because of other books that I read that I was looking for, and it just wasn't healthy. After reading this book and seeing the relationship between Jamie and Claire, the blind acceptance from Jamie, the blind trust and acceptance from Claire, their romance and how it blossomed throughout the rest of the series, showed me what I want in a partner and a friend and someone to look for. I knew I'd always get there on my own, being okay with me, but it was finding someone that was going to accept me for me. And it was this book that showed me what I was looking for and what I wanted. And I wanted that blind acceptance of all of my bullshit, all of my drama, all of my tics, all of my weird fucking crap. And it's this book that showed it to me. And after this book, I never settled for anything other than what I wanted. And I found it. And now I'm happily married to him, and I am adopting his daughter as my own, and I get my own happy ending. This book, along with all these books, helped build the person that you know today. Now, are there other books out there that definitely had an influence on my life? Abso-fucking-lutely. There are books out there that I still think about to this day, or that haunt me that I didn't even mention. But the books I've talked about had a significant impact on who I am right now, and traits that I wanted to carry over and have been with me through since the beginning. The love of the dark and macabre started at a very early age and has not gone away. It's just gotten darker, creepier, and more sadistic and twisted in my reading. In my life, not so much, but in my reading, fuck yes. Holy shit, yes. My love of inquisitive nature, my inquisitive nature of asking questions and wanting to know the whole story. From the beginning, it's still there. I want to know why, how, when, who, where, what, who put what where. I want to see everything. I want to see the carnage. I want to see the passion. I want to see the destruction. I want to see the happiness. I want to feel it. I learned that through the Thornbirds. My love of primary first-person stories being told from somebody living it all started back in the beginning with Dear America and journals and diaries. All of these books help build me. And there are going to be books that I read later on that will build me too. And I'm pretty sure I have a book that has built me. I just don't know how it resolves yet. I don't know what Jackie's going to look like once I'm done, once I've gone through it. I'm still going through it at this point, but I believe it is changing me. And maybe in a couple of years, I might do a recap of this and add on the adult years. I don't know. But so far, these are the books that built me. These are the books that have definitive building blocks of my story and of my soul. If you broke my soul down into little wooden boxes that children play with and build towers out of that have the letters on it, every single one of these books would have a box. And you would build them up and you'd have the pyramid that is me right now. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me on this journey back to the early days to now and the books that built me. Let me know what book had a significant impact on your life from an early age that still holds true today. I love you all. Thank you for being part of my journey and sharing this with me. And I will see you guys all soon with another video.